Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the Pioneer DJ Masterclass. I'm very happy. I'm very excited. These have been so fulfilling doing these masterclasses with these amazing artists. This is actually the 6th edition. We've previously been joined by Roger Sanchez, DJ Sneak, Kink, Mr. Switch, and James Hype. And today, well, it's a bit of a landmark one. You know, we're in very good company already. But we've been collaborating with our guests today for almost 20 years on CDJs, mixers, effectors, and even the DJs. Who remembers those? His creativity has inspired a generation of artists, posing the question, where does DJing end and live performance begin? Of course, it's James Zabiela. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. Good to be here. Thanks for having me, and thanks for embarrassing me straight away. I appreciate
it. Now, James. Obviously, the hair has always played a big part in your image. Always. But can you just walk us through the different stages of lockdown hair that you've gone through so far?
Well, I've had it cut once since March last year, just once. So yeah.
And the beard's looking pretty tamed at the moment.
I've got lockdown hair normally, so it's fine.
Now, how have you been in these times? I mean, you know, it's pretty unprecedented. I know that word gets used all the time, but you know, what has lockdown meant for you professionally and creatively?
I think at first, you know, I spent the first few months sort of panicking in the basement, just where I am right now, wondering what on earth I was going to do, and just sort of being paralyzed, I guess. So I wasn't really able to create or feel creative. I was too busy, just like, as a lot of people were, just worrying about the future. But then when the world, at least for me, didn't end, then I started to get into the idea of staying at home after sort of traveling so much. And I've become a bit of a, you know, like a lot of people have, a hermit, but I'm sort of worried that I'm enjoying it a little bit too much. And I've realized that I've now got all this time to do a lot of things that I've wanted to do that I haven't had the time to do before, such as, you know, spending 2 weeks listening through old funk breaks and watching YouTube videos of synthesizer presets from the 80s that are like an hour long, just someone playing the preset. This is how this one sounds. This is how the next one sounds. I mean, who's got time to do that? But now I've had the time to do all those really lovely nerdy things, and I feel almost guilty. Well, I do feel guilty saying it, but you know, for me, in many ways, it's been great, because it's been a great time to learn stuff and get more into the production stuff. And my DJing, as much as I love it, and of course I miss it loads, it was pretty consuming, and my creative output suffered because I was DJing and having great gigs. So, you know, for me, it's kind of one or the other. I can't really seem to do both that well, not at once.
Yeah, I think a lot of artists struggle with that.
Yeah, but there are some people that, you know, they go out, do great gigs, they get home on Monday, they're back in the studio, being prolific, and yeah, I find it hard to shift between the two things.
Before we kick things off, welcome everyone. We're so excited that you're joining us today. As ever, we've got questions that you can ask over here in the questions section, and we've got an amazing poll, some polls rather, where you can answer different questions. So we've got beat sync or no beat sync. It sounds like real or no real, doesn't it? In what profession should James retrain in? I love this one. What's the best cheese? What's the best Star Wars movie? So yeah, loving those. And what is the best haircut? Feel free to suggest your own in the chat. So yeah, loving those polls today. Thank you very much, James, for your input there. And get busy in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to hear where you're from, and yeah, ask those questions. We want this to be really involving. We've got some amazing videos that James has been putting together, and the reason why I paused is because he's put so much effort into those. But I think let's just kind of wind the clock back a little bit, because I mentioned the product planning activities, the products that you've been involved in over the years. Do you think that you could kind of pinpoint not a favorite product, but a favorite moment? Maybe it was like one specific feature of one particular product where you're like, oh my God, my life has just changed.
I mean, it has to be when I was in Australia and talking to a DJ and friend of mine, Phil K, who sadly left us last year. But he was telling me about the FX 500 and how it was actually a sampler. It's like, dude, it's a sampler. I was like, there's no sampler on this thing. And yeah, he sort of just pushed me in the direction of investigating it a bit further. And he was making these crazy feedback loops out of the echo on there. You could get 1 bar of recording with it, basically. It's like a guitar looper. That's how he was using it. And you could do all these mad little edits with that. And I think that's the point. That's the thing that really sort of turned me on to all the Pioneer stuff and got me sort of obsessed with it. That sort of thing that it wasn't supposed to do, that wasn't in the manual, and was actually quite dangerous for a lot of sound systems. Every time Pioneer come up with a new mix, I'm like, oh, can we have a feedback option on there? And yeah, you guys always say no.
I mean, can we talk about that motivation to continually push the DJ performance? And I said it in the intro, posing the question, where does DJing end and live performance begin? Surely life could be quite easy to just wander around with a USB and a pair of headphones. But, I know that you take an unprecedented amount of kit into the booth, and you've always pushed the boundaries and even stripped down. We're going to see some videos today that literally are just like one CDJ and the mixer. So I know that you don't need loads of kit, but what is that motivation to try and create something new?
Yeah, it's kind of like I was just saying, really. Just it's fun to exploit the equipment in ways that it was never designed to do, and like getting in on the ground up with the product planning stuff, particularly with the RMX, little things that were faults maybe or bugs in the unit during testing sort of became implemented into the unit in a way, like things that were perhaps meant to be patched or fixed. A good example is on the RMX, you can go between the default and user setting without the audio cutting out, without it resetting. Like if there's an echo echoing through, you can switch from default to user mode, and it continues to echo, but all your new settings are then applied to the echo. And so that setting, which is the default user setting, is just meant to be a functional, a utility button, but it actually becomes a performance aspect in the unit. And I think that's the stuff that I get really excited by. Is that sad?
No, not at all. I mean, I'd love to kind of talk about that moment. We've talked about this with various artists, where I think a lot of electronic music is about taking or creating chaos and then resolving that chaos. into order. How do you know where that moment is? You know, how, in terms of how far you can push something, or when you're listening to sounds, how do you, you know, do you think that you could put your finger on a kind of feeling that you get when you feel like that's noise, but that's amazing at the same time?
Yeah, I think it can get pretty crazy, especially with the feedback stuff. I mean, you can just keep layering and layering and layering, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. There are some, I do believe there's some sort of limiter in the later effects units and in the mixers and stuff, but I'm thinking about the Spiral, which is an insane DJ and mixers. It's like, I'm not allowed to have a feedback option on the mixer, but this is the company that brought you the Spiral. I think when you can make these walls of sound and then churn them up, that's, you know, and it's still musical in a way. I think that's a good answer to your question, is that as long as it retains some musicality, that's always been really important for me. I think, like, to use effects, and maybe not at first. When I first got into DJing, it's like playing video games. You know, I just wanted to like button bash and play with the toys. But in more recent years, as I faced criticism, of course, but from myself more than anything else, more than anyone else, is that I wanted to use the effects in a more musical way, so that it complements your DJing and the music that you're playing. I think that's really, really important.
So with that in mind, you've created a number of videos that we're going to show today. How did you go about creating those routines? Because, I mean, since, you know, like we've created, or we've released the CDJ 3000 and the V10, the RMX was already out, obviously the PLX was already out. Yeah. But, you know, there are two kind of key products there that you units that you haven't actually used out in the club. So, you know, I'm sure that you probably didn't have routines that you could just go to. So how did you go about creating the routines that you're going to show us today?
Well, I mean, one of them was actually sort of tasked to me from you guys, from Chris at Pioneer, for use on the CDJ 3000 advert. So I helped out with that, and basically I had to show off. I had a brief from Chris that said, "Oh, this is the feature we want to show. This is the feature we want to show." And so one of the videos, I don't know which order you're going to show them in, but one of them is basically what I worked out for particularly showing off a creative way of using the what is it, the key synced pitch shift. I forget what it's called now. Hang on, it's a loaded track. I can have a look.
The key shift.
Key shift, yeah. So just making like a build up out of the key shift. That was the thing. But for the rest, I don't really know. It's just, I guess, like just down here playing about. That's really it. The poly looping thing, that was initially something
we'll go into detail into the.
We'll get into all that later on, yeah. But in order to make up these routines, it's really just goofing about. And to go back to my analogy about playing video games, I feel like I still have that feeling like I'm in my bedroom playing Street Fighter 2 when I'm down here playing with, you know, the effects unit and mixer and CDJ. It's a similar thing. It's fun. I'm locked in my little space, and yeah, that's the best feeling, I think. It's just to be in here. I enjoy that often more than playing out to crowds. You know, just being in here, like just goofing around.
Amazing. Well, I think that set it up beautifully. I think let's get on with the videos now. So, but just to remind, I'm going to say hello to everyone that's saying hello in the chat. You know, we've got
hello everyone.
A massive mix of different people from different locations. So Remember to ask those questions, answer the polls, and let's bring up the first video now. So DJM V10 send effects feedback mangling. So maybe could you just talk to us about what we're about to see here and how you went about creating it?
This is the first video I sent you, isn't it? There are a couple that are send and return V10.
Yeah, this is the first one.
Very first one. Okay, let me think. What did I do? If I step out of shot, I'm not going to go out of shot, I don't think. No.
Captain Kirk's there to keep us company.
William Flatner. I'm a flatmate. Yeah, so this was about, I guess this video, I think about it in 3 stages. The first is to just grab a little slice of audio. You can use the short and long delay on the send and return, on the send effects on the V10, and send them into any channel that you want. So there, I've just got one CDJ that's playing the track, and I'm taking little tiny snippets of sound and sending them and manipulating them with the feedback control and the time control. And you can sort of take the little snippets of sound and rubberize them. It's like a sort of tape stretching sound. It's really cool. And you can ride the little snippet of sound with the time control over your track. It's kind of wild. It's kind of hard to do, hard to keep it in time, but that's what's good about it. That's what's fun about the effect, that it's all sort of loose and wonky and rubberized. So that's the first part of the video. And then what happens? And then using the same effect, so ramp up the feedback, create this sort of wall of sound like we were talking about earlier on, and run that down into another channel, or into the same channel. And I use the filter, and most importantly, the tone control, and sort of chop it rhythmically and, like I was saying before, musically. The best thing about this effect is that all the sounds are derived from the track. So you use the tone control, you can sort of pull out certain frequencies and play along with the track. And what helps to pull out those frequencies is the resonance on the filter as well. You'll see that that's cranked up really high, but I've got the gain super low on the return channel to compensate. Otherwise, it would be so loud. And then at the end, there's just some like cutting the noise in and out, messing about, and what I've called parroting, which is you do a little 2-bar scratch into the echo, it repeats it. You do another little 2-bar scratch, it repeats it. You do another little 2-bar scratch, it repeats it. Not scratch in this case, just like sort of cutting the noise in and out, but you'll see.
Amazing. Well, that's a fantastic description. I think let's check it out.
Close your eyes. 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 Close your
Wow. Let me just pause the video. Schoolboy error. There we go. Let's try and just bring that back a little bit. Okay, great. Amazing. James, lots of love for you in the chat there. So, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I'm just going to, I'll go in reverse order. So the last sort of cutting in and out of the wall of sound that's being built up by filling the short delay up as much as you can. You can use the echo select, the effects channel select, and it will wipe the opposite to what I was saying before about the. In this case, when you change the effect select, it will kill whatever's passing through it. So you can use that to just reset the effect on and off, and that's how you can do that sort of parroting thing. What else can I tell you about it? I sort of said it all really at the beginning. I should have saved it, shouldn't I? Yeah, I think you can sort of see at the start when I'm taking those little snippets of sound, there's that little old school hardcore sound that I don't know what that sample's from, but just grabbing that little tiny snippet of sound by tapping the send effect on and off. Obviously, if you left that on, it would build up quite loud with the settings on. So you kind of have to just tap it on and off. But just grabbing that little bit of sound and then riding the time control over the track is quite a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Just answering a question in the question section here from Evo Groit. Will the stream be available afterwards for review? Yes, it will, definitely. Because you signed up via Livestorm, you'll receive an email afterwards where you will be able to click a link and watch this on demand. So you can painstakingly go through and see exactly what James is doing. So James, should we jump to the next one, or did you have anything to add to this one?
Just reliably told me that the doll sound is not actually from The Simpsons, but it's from DJs Unite. So yeah. Now I know. Seduction and fantasy, he said.
Amazing. See, look, a wealth of knowledge in the chat here today. So brilliant. Should we check out the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm hoping that I could try and push it. Oh, look at that. I pushed it to the right place. So PLX 1000 scratch feedback loops. So I was very surprised when this dropped into my inbox to see you working with vinyl. So maybe you want to just talk to us about what we're just about to see here.
Well, I'll try not to talk about it too much. What I'll do is watch the video and I'll take notes and then talk about it.
Okay. All right. Should we check it out?
Okay.
I stopped the video that time. So James, just before we get into it, I mean, I think what's amazing here is that, you know, obviously it shows that you've got a history and, you know, a love of scratching that comes from vinyl. Do you want to maybe talk about that first? Because I don't think many people have actually seen you scratch with vinyl, have they?
No, probably not for many years. Yeah, it just became like a bit inconvenient to travel around with like 2 effects units and records and everything else. And then you get to the club and the turntables wouldn't be set up properly, and it just became a bit of a nightmare. But I've still bought a lot of records, although not many this year, in the last year for obvious reasons, but still a bit of a vinyl addict. I think I got into the scratching stuff. I had a friend at school. I used to go around his house at lunchtime, and he was an amazing scratch DJ. I used to just sit there and eat my sandwich, watch him scratching. And that's where I got into that. And I used to watch Dr. Dre and Yo MTV Raps, and the DJ in the background would always be cutting it up, and I would just like be wishing that the MCs and everything would be quiet so I could watch what was going on. But yeah, you know, I'm gonna make this analogy a lot, aren't I, in this stream? But it's sort of like doing those Street Fighter 2 Nintendo combos. It's the fun part of it. And I still, yeah. The platters on the new CDJs, just a plug here for your products, are lovely for scratching. Like easily the best platter on any of the CDJs that have come out so far for that.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you're enjoying them.
Kind of got back into it because of the lockdown stuff, and yeah, that inspired.
So let's talk about the actual routine. So what we can obviously see you scratching, and then how is the RMX connected to the 900, and what's going on here with that routing and the sampling of the scratching?
So yeah, the effect is off at the start. I've got the send and return switched on, but it's just the sound's just passively going through the RMX. You can see after the first scratch, or I'm not sure now, the first couple of scratches, I reach over during the fill in the track and just tap the echo on. And at that point, that's when the RMX starts recording. So I know that it's going to echo or record for 2 bars, because that's how I've set it up in Remixbox, in software that you can adjust the RMX settings yourself. So I just have to scratch for another 2 bars and then stop. I know that's whatever I've done in those 2 bars is going to get repeated. And then once that's repeated and rolling along in time with your track, you can mess around with the subparameter 1 knob, which is divided into 4 time measurements. And you can, again, in Remixbox, program those 4 measurements to be whatever you want. If I just actually have a look in Remixbox, I've got it set to 1/16, half a beat, 2/1 and 8/1. Obviously.
Do you want to share your screen? Should we try that?
I know, then everyone's going to see my bookmarks. Hang on. Okay, let's do it. Hold on. I apologize. I've still got my Safari bookmarks.
You thought that you were just getting tips and tricks. You didn't know that you were going to get James's bookmarks tonight.
Right, where is it again? Share. Right, share. Oh, it's not on here now. Oh, here we go. Share screen. Here we go. Let me know. There we are.
Here we go. Well done.
All right, so this is the Remixbox software, and if I hover over to the echo here, this is the code time. Oh, there we go. I can't. As soon as you move the mouse over it, it obviously goes to the next.
You just
one.
click the echo, and it will stay on there.
Used it in so long. Yeah, so they're the 4 time measurements that I was telling you about. And if I click off the echo a second, this actually I don't need to click off it. This functional setting button on the right, which is just hiding behind this panel, that's the default and user mode. So what you can do is go between your echo setting times and the default times that are on the unit. And that's great because it means if you flip between 2/1 and 1/1, or I can't actually remember what it was. I think it's 2/1 and 1/2. there with this button that you get these kind of jumps, and that's how you can make these. You can make your scratch pattern that you've recorded into a funky pattern just by turning that knob and switching that switch kind of in time and going between the different measurements. And you can it sort of eternally do that. It's destructive. You can never go back to your original scratch pattern. It's not like the roll or something. If you're recording into the roll, you can jiggle the pattern around and go back to your original pattern. But with this is more fun because, as you'll see in the videos later on, you can continually add to the loop, and you can change the loop and mangle it in ways that you can't do with just straight up roll sampling. And so that's that. And I'm going to quickly get rid of this screen before you see my bookmarks. Oh no, it's too late. I'm exposed. There we go. Thanks. Did you rescue me there, Dan?
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
There we go. Amazing. Do you have any more to add about PLX scratching?
No, I don't think so. No, it's just like I said, I got sort of back into it. It's one of the nice things about lockdown is I've spent a lot of time down here in the last year in the basement, and just being down here playing with the toys, and really sort of fallen sort of back in love with my record collection. And it's been really nice, and obviously I feel so guilty saying it, as I said, because it's just a horrible situation that a lot of us are going through, and people are affected by this in terrible ways. But it's been the sort of thing that's it's been nice for me to be able to reconnect despite side. Someone else slippers.
Pardon?
Asked to see my slippers.
The Yoda slippers.
There you go. Got
Fantastic. So we're now looking at the RMX again for the next one. So RMX 1000 scratch. What should we watch it, or do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're about to see and how it's set up?
I think we should just watch it, and then I can be refreshed on it myself.
Okay, let's check it out. So I actually got the title wrong.
Oh, never mind.
I think a lot of people will recognize that if they'd seen the CDJ 3000 launch video. It's pretty incredible. If you want to tell us what's going on there, James.
Well, yeah, that was it. I had to come up with something. That actually rescued me doing that advert. I have to say, I was really appreciative to finally have gotten some work to do after months of lockdown, and it forced me to get down here and get playing. And so, yeah, you tasked me to come up with a few things that showed off some of the new features on the players, and so it made sense to put that in this session. And yeah, the other thing is, just going back to the last video, that what you can see in this video that I've used the trans effect on the mixer, and it's just basically you hit the trans and it chops the sound up for you, and it is kind of cheating. And so that's one of the motivations for the PLX video, just to show that I can actually also do it myself almost instantly. But yeah, another thing to note is that where the hot cues are on the players now, it was very easy, well, a lot easier for me to just let go of the platter and my hand slides across and almost falls onto the hot cue on the downbeat. And actually, when I was practicing that routine, I put all of the hot cues on onto that loop, so they all played that same loop. So I literally just had to sort of slip off the platter and land on any hot cue. So when I was putting it together, it was just easier to do. And then
the drunk setting.
Yeah, the drunk setting. And then as I practiced it and got a bit better at it, it was easier to just quickly tap the one I wanted. And then into the I keep forgetting what this is. A key shift. There we go. Key shift to make a sort of riser at the end there. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty self-explanatory, that one, I think.
Amazing. I think the trance is kind of quite an undervalued effect, because I think that it can be used in quite a few different situations, particularly with the white noise as well. And
you can make almost like hi-hats out of white noise. So it's great, yeah. But I remember when I was sat on my apartment floor and playing around with a mixer, a DJ Hem, which one was it?
600, 800?
It was a 600. That was my first Pioneer mixer. And it was like a little cheat code when I looped up a scratch and started cutting it up with the transformer thing. It felt like it was cheating. And so I felt like, as you'll see in the video coming up, the one that I think you were supposed to play just then, it frees you up to do lots of other crazy stuff. So yeah.
Amazing. So yeah, we finally have RMX 1000 scratch. Should we watch it and then you recap? Or yeah, should we do that?
Most people have seen me do this one, but I put a new spin on this one a little bit.
Great, let's check it out. Wowzers. A British expression there. It's pretty extraordinary. And I think one thing that would be quite fun to mention here is that, in a lot of films, or when you see something that looks incredibly dexterous, a lot of the times, and even when musicians will play something difficult, they'll actually slow the whole track down and then they can play it over the top so that they know that they can get it all in properly, and then they just speed it up afterwards. But that's all you in real time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. As you know, when you asked me to do this, I got quite into the filming aspect of it, and I bought myself a GoPro and I've stuck it on the ceiling. I've ruined my ceiling in here now. I mean, as you can see, it needed some work anyway, but now I've got these little GoPro mounts that you can't see stuck up there, so I could film it all. So I got quite into that and filming it with a like 60 frames per second. So you could slow it down if you wanted to and see what's going on.
Yeah, amazing. So when your hands are moving really quickly, you're just jumping between, I say just, but you're jumping between different scene effects, aren't you, on the right-hand side?
Yeah, and not only to show off the lovely new platter, but one of the things I included in the video there was to mega spin the platter around and then just cycle through some of the effects. I think it's the band pass, frequency echo, high pass echo, and low pass echo, and crush. And I'm just cycling through those rhythmically. And what I did was I've got subparameter 1 set to, I think it's its second measurement, and I made sure that that scratch sound sounded really robotic and crunchy and nice when that subparameter 1 knob setting is set to there. But when the scratch sound passes through it, on each one of those settings, it sounds like ace. In, you know, when you're switching between them, it sounds how you want it to. So as long as I know that subparameter 1 setting is set to there, when I cycle through the effects, it's going to sound cool. And so that's how I set that up.
I think this is a really nice time to actually draw a link between yourself and another previous artist that we had on, which was King, where he said one of the most underrated things or unknown things that he does when he's setting up his live setup is if he's got a touch strip, he won't set it for like 4 octaves. He'll set it so that he knows that at the top of the touch strip is always a 7th or something like that. So it still allows him kind of creativity to move within that, but he knows that as soon as he ends up at the top of the touch strip, it will be a 7th. And I think that what's really nice about that is that it's not cheating, it's just making sure that you can hit that effect and be consistent every time you perform it.
The same with the release effect this as well. Like when you when I'm doing the release switch on the right and pressing it down, the bottom 2 settings, I have them at the same measurement in case I press it too hard. So I can lightly tap it and it will sample it at a certain measurement and then a faster measurement on the next one down, but the next one down, it's the same measurement. So if I'm too heavy handed with it, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, you've got excited and then super excited, and it doesn't matter how excited you are, you still achieve the same effect.
Button bash it without wanting too much.
Excellent. Should we check out the next one?
Sure.
Great. So polyrhythmic transition. Sounds slightly sexual, doesn't it? Let's just check this out.
You do need to give some credit to Kink for this, because he, when I was looking to do some polyrhythm stuff with the odd loop lengths, I was Googling like different things, and one of his videos came up that inspired this. So
fantastic. Let's check it out. That's pretty heavy duty. That's pretty heavy.
Well, anyone that's seen my Instagram would have seen that on there. And when you asked me to do it again, I was like, oh no. It's nice. Actually, I gave you a couple of takes of that. You've used the slightly more wonky take of it, but it's more playful, I guess, that take. But yeah, I feel like there's a better version of it that I have on video. But anyway, you can do that house to drum and bass thing without the extra CDJ, which is playing the sort of arpeggiated loop. You can actually that's sort of there for flair and just to make it sort of interesting. And another thing to note is that the trans effect, which chops that arpeggio, everything is pitched to that because it has the 130 trans effect on the DJM 900 isn't the same as a track that's 130 on the CDJ, like beat gridded perfectly. It's just, I don't know why, they're just not quite, they don't stay in time so well. So what I had to do for that is everything is timed to the trans effect in order for it to work. So I set up the trans effect just over like a tone and then pitched all 4 CDJs so that they stayed in time with the trans. And that's kind of was the secret to doing that. But the other thing is, it's switching from, it's like I don't know, it feels like when you're doing that, it's like one of those pictures from the 80s that you have to sort of stare at and you see it in a different way. You have to hear the track, like 1 minute is house, the house tempo, and then you have to suddenly switch your brain over to hear it at a different tempo, the drum and bass tempo in this case. And I think that was I can, now that I've done it a few times, I find it quite easy, but at first that was a bit like, oh, I have to just suddenly, my brain has to suddenly just sort of switch gears. And I think that was probably the hardest part about it.
I mean, I think we should highlight here that this trick can also be done not only on the CDJ 3000s, but on the Nexus 2 as well. So by doing a long hold on the Nexus 2 on the loop mode on the screen, that will bring up your polyrhythmic measures, whereas they're just on a separate page on the CDJ 3000.
You can do it on the old CDJs, but you have to chop the loop in half. So you just manually make a
3-beat loop and then halve it.
Use a loop cutter and chop it in half. So anyone can try it.
Yeah, and another thing that I think is quite fun as well, on a DJM mixer, if you set the timing to 3-3-3, you will always get a 3-2 rhythm, no matter what BPM you're playing at, within kind of house and techno.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the on the 900, I don't know how I never noticed this before, but if you use the arrow, left and right arrow, to cycle through the trans pattern, it leaves out the odd measurement. It just goes into the ones that are divisible by 4. And so you have to, actually I don't have it in front of me at the moment, annoyingly. I have the V10 here, but hang on a sec.
Well, this gives me a brief moment to thank you all for watching. Remember, questions, polls over here. Get busy. Oh, he's back. Here we go.
It's on the mixer, so you just tap it on the mixer, but you can't cycle through to it. So I don't know if that's on this firmware that I've got, or if it was always like that, but I only noticed it recently. And so that's so you can obviously rhythmically go left and right, and it's always going to sound cool as long as you press the buttons in time. Yeah, so I find that quite interesting.
Fantastic. Nice. Now, I mean, I think something that I'd like to bring up now, and I learned this from you actually, and I think it'd be nice to highlight it to our viewers today is kind of breaking down the anatomy of applying an effect. What I learned from you is that the entrance and the exit of the effect are almost more important than the actual effect. And I want to bring it up on that one because I noticed that even when you were kind of bringing tracks in and out, you didn't need to do effects like with the dub echo or the reverb or with the space, but you did it anyway to act as a flourish to kind of bookend the effect.
Just sort of smush it in. That's actually one of the things that I preferred in the other take that I sent you. It was more a sort of smoother transition into the effect. But yeah, I think it's just trying to keep it musical. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
Just that's the DJing aspect of it.
Because I think for any viewers kind of watching this, when you go back over them, I mean, I think it'd be really nice to pay special attention to actually how James gets into an effect. And when he is actually, say, doing some scratching, how does he then get out of that scratch without just kind of just stopping? There's always some kind of flourish or tail or some kind of conclusion to each effect, which I think it makes it, as you say, sound much more musical and much more palatable for the audience when they're listening.
Hopefully.
Should we check out the last routine?
Yeah.
DJ and V10 send and return madness. I think let's just do this.
I didn't realize you just used all of the daft names that I sent you.
there was no better way to describe it. I love it.
Come up with some cooler names.
So here we go. I just wanted to put that little bit of silence in there because when you first sent that over, I was like, what is going on? I mean, you know, just run us over. What is going on there, James?
Basically everything you hear is just generated off that electro loop. So all the sounds, everything is just made from effects and from that track. So first of all, I'm sending the audio out using the external send one into the cathedral reverb. That's coming back into a channel, I think it's channel 4. And the RMX is chopping that up, and I've got the filter all the way around. So it's like, it makes these little hi-hat sounds basically. So when you pull the fader up, you pull the send round, I mean, you hear these little chopped up white noise, I guess, for want of a better word. And then I've got the echo record on the RMX. So again, that's our record button. We're just literally using the RMX as a looper, as a recorder, and that's recording everything that we're doing throughout the whole routine. And then what happens? Yeah, and then I use the filter to sort of playful filtering of the reverb that's being chopped, and then I mess around with the patterns as we discussed before with the echo on the RMX, changing the pattern around, trying to just keep it interesting. I was just trying to see how long I could keep that little recorded pattern going and keep it interesting, just basically jamming and changing it all the time. And then what you can do is use the DJM mixer, their effects on top of all of the effects that you've recorded. So you can basically, the way that the signal goes, it goes from the RMX into the mixer effects. So you can like echo those out. So I was just chopping those in and out with the crossfader. And then, yeah, just adding to that loop. So then I set the reverb, the cathedral reverb that you see there, to be huge plate reverb sound. So when I whipped round the send on that cowbell, it sort of made it explode and recorded that into the loop. And then there's a sort of little reverse reverb thing that comes after that, recorded into the loop. And then I recorded the short delay again on that cowbell. It just lent itself really well to messing around with, into the loop for that sort of crazy wall of sound breakdown at the end. And then you can sample the actual track itself by chopping it back in old school DJ style. As long as you use the input selector on the V10, you may have noticed that the signal was jumping over the mixer, over the last 3 channels on the mixer, and that's just moving the input selector to different places. So when I did that at the end, I moved it to the master because all the faders were down. So it just recorded anything that was coming through the mixer. And then put it back onto a channel, made a sort of build thing, I guess, with the mixer's echo, and shortening the loop with the parameter on the RMX. And that's it, really.
Just that. Yeah, amazing, and super musical. And you know, something, a lovely memory that I've got of you performing is at one of these trade shows. Remember those, when people used to go and congregate in a great big hall, and you used to go on the Pioneer stand, and you know, there could be James Zabiela playing in those olden days. But I remember you had a routine that you did. It wasn't even a routine, it was just a jam, but you were using one track.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just try. How long can you keep something sort of interesting? Just this one loop, just by messing around and keep it musical at the same time. And I guess, how long was that video? About 3 minutes. But 3 minutes is the answer to that question.
I've got to ask this. Have you ever kind of like affected yourself into a corner where you've just gone, yeah, I've gone a bit too far this time?
Yeah, I expect so, many times.
But is there a point where you would just bring it back?
Well, I think like the more you know the equipment, the more you know how it works. Like with the feedback loop stuff, that can obviously go wrong so easily. in many ways, but you can just totally destroy your loop and just end up with a little sound, which you can't really do much with. But maybe you can do something with it if you know the equipment. If you're so familiar with the equipment, you can somehow turn that into a rhythm and then, mix your next track in or whatever to get out of it. So yeah, probably, I make loads of mistakes when I'm out DJing, but that's part of it. I think if you didn't try things and make mistakes, I don't know, it's not hugely exciting for me and for other people that perhaps want to see that. I mean, even with I saw on the poll, it's like this thing about beat matching, and it's nice to hear the human interacting with the machines, I think.
Have you ever had like a moment where you're like, you know what, no effects, I'm just going to play vinyl all night?
I'd love to do that. I mean,
but have you had a craving for it? Like,
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I have cravings to do that down here. But yeah, I think that that's what's so great about that. Going back to what I was saying, it's the interaction between you and the equipment. I feel that everything's too perfect these days, perhaps a little too perfect. And it's weird because when I first started DJing, my quest with vinyl mixing was to make these perfect mixes that were so flawless, and I just wanted to make the ultimate mixtape that sounded like it was made, sequenced in Pro Tools. But I wanted to do it. I wanted to be the person that made this perfect mixtape, and now it's funny that I've completely gone the other way. Now we've got this kind of opposite problem where if you wanted to, you could use the equipment in a way where it really takes a little effort to get that perfect mixtape. And so, yeah, but that's why I
want to get some human touch on it.
Yeah, that's why I like the RMX, like the feedback loop stuff and the rubbery wonky tape delay on the V10 that you have to sort of ride and keep in time, and that's challenging, but also I think it sounds good, when you're kind of in there wrestling with it.
We're going to jump into some questions in a second, but you've mentioned it before or just now about making the perfect mixtape. Let's talk about perfectionism, because I think it is actually something could be argued that in some ways, like, is it something that you struggle with?
How do you mean? What, being perfect?
Striving for perfection, because I don't know how happy you might be that I bring up your balance compilation, but
I think that's it, and even with these videos, I had quite a few takes of different takes of them, and then there were bits where like, oh, I know I could do that better, shall I record it again? Oh, I know I could do that better, but I could go around probably doing that forever. It can always be better. There's always something that you can do better, and so I have to have a word for myself often when I'm doing these things, like just say, okay, look, enough's enough. And that's one of the things I've struggled with in the past with like making music, is that you can tinker with something forever, but at some point you have to just say, okay, that's it. I think we all struggle with that, everyone.
It's because we care.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Anyone that cares struggles with it. Like people that don't care, they just go, that'll do. But can't do that.
Let's jump into some music, some questions. Just reading the question here. So at the top, posed by Lee Daniel, thank you very much, with 21 upvotes. How do you organize your music?
Right now, not very well. And before the lockdown happened, it was meticulous, to the point where a track, before it even got into one of my playlists, would have to go through this rigorous process of all the metadata would have to be filled in iTunes, and then that would be imported into Rekordbox, and then that would be tagged in all the different things that track suited to, So if it was a breakbeat track, if it was a warm-up track, if it was in a certain bracket of tempo, I'd have all these little little tags, and I would tag all the things. So by the time I actually got a track into my collection, I'd have to have done all of this with each track, and I found that it was really costing me a lot of time, and it sort of also can kill your spontaneity, I think. So now I've really tried to get away from that, and what I'm doing is I'm just getting the music and bunging it in a playlist, and with like the date of when I got it. So, you know, January 2021. Just put all the tracks in there, and they're all in there. And I think it's better, and this is another thing that's sort of come out of the lockdown thing, it's better to just like have a play, put them all in the month's playlist, sit down here, have a mix, or stand and have a mix, and you know, that's for learning the music that you've acquired and enjoying it at the same time.
Fantastic. I think that's a great answer. A very quick one from Pepe Camille. Thank you very much. V10 or 900 Nexus 2?
Oh, that's a tough one. I
It's
mean,
kind of not really fair, because like the 900 Nexus 2 is kind of like something that, you know, is been in your life for like the last 5 years, and variations of, and then the V10 is just like another animal that you haven't actually probably even played out on.
no, in fact, the first and last thing that I was supposed to do right before the COVID stuff hit was a V10 demo in a DJ shop. And so I'd learned all these little like tricks and things to try out, and just got myself familiar with it. And it was literally that day when they shut everything down. But I have to say, at the moment, you know, and on the basis of the last video that we watched, I'm enjoying the V10 for the fact that you can do so much with the send and return possibilities. The creativeness of all that is what I find exciting at the moment. But yeah, you know, the 900 and all of the ones that ilk that came before it that I'm so familiar with, that yeah, I think that style of mixer is sort of my first love, but these new send and return possibilities that you can do with this are, yeah, that's what I'm liking at the moment.
Nutty. Michael Jackson asks, what other performance DJs do you like or look up to?
Say that again.
Michael Jackson asks, what other performance DJs do you like or look up to?
Well, definitely Kink is a good one. I've watched a lot of his videos and stuff that he's put on his Facebook page that I've stumbled across. In fact, when you sent me the idea to do this, I enjoyed watching his version of that. So if anyone's watching this or tuned into this, definitely go back and check that out. It's great. Oh, now I can't think of anyone. Matthias Carden's always someone that I used to like seeing out playing. He was a great technical DJ. He would do things like, I saw him in a small club in Mexico, and he was like tapping on the label of the record. He had the record playing, well, not playing, but he had the needle on the record, and so he was sort of playing the bongos by tapping the label of the record. It sounded great. But I thought, oh, it'd be cool to do that. Although he didn't do this, but it would be cool to do that. You could do that into a feedback loop. Of course, you'd have to be very, very careful doing that. You'd have to stop that echo button pretty quickly, otherwise you'd get an enormous amount of feedback off the stylus. But you could do that and loop it around. But yeah, he was really great.
How tight do you have the jog adjust for scratching on the 3000s? And that's from Chris Salt.
All the way around to light on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I never used to until these players. But yeah, they're so nice. I feel like when you tell people about the CDJ 3000s, you say, "Oh yeah, the new platter's amazing." I guess it might sound like you know, if someone's like, oh, so what's new about these new players, and you say, oh, the platter, it might sound a bit underwhelming, but it really is. Yeah, it's really lovely. I don't know how many ball bearings you've got going on inside. I mean, you can hear the difference when you spin one next to the other.
Can you do that for us now?
Mine, I don't. That's the 3000, and then I've got this one over here. Maybe I've broken that one. I don't know, but it's much further away, so it wasn't a test. In fairness to the 3000, it's like a Rolls Royce platter. Lovely. Nice.
Okay, just jumping into another few questions here. When I love this one, Joe Borelli. When's the last time you stopped the wrong deck?
Oh, we've all done that. I don't know when the last. I think you do it a couple of times and then you don't do it again for a long, long time because it's just one of the worst things. What I hate is when people think you've done that, but what's actually happened is like someone's tripped over a plug socket or something like that, and everyone's like, "Hey, it wasn't me." I can't remember the last time I did it, but I've definitely done it and done it more than once. It's happened. But I haven't. I'm lucky I've not appeared on one of those like DJ fail YouTube compilations, thankfully.
I like this question from Dan Baldwin. What is your best budget / low cost piece of kit and how do you use it?
Oh, how to I can find. These are pretty great. These like any sort of guitar pedals, like they're fairly inexpensive. They're quite good. Those Korg Volca things, they're really ace. What else? I used to use the old K oscillator. That was really cheap. You could probably pick up some of those on eBay. Or then I didn't like the newer ones; they were a bit too fiddly. But for being in a club, I think. Yeah, there's loads of. I like those. They're my favourite things to get. Those just like little toy things. You plug them in, and again, that's why I like the V10, which is not inexpensive, but you can plug all these little things into it and try it all out. Like you look at the back of the mixer, and it's just like, whoa, that's a lot of sockets. So yeah, a lot of ports.
Excellent. So let's jump into the chat now. Come on. How do you like Genelec monitors? Would you recommend those or any others to consider for the home setup?
Definitely, I love them. I've got the small ones, like these smaller ones for my sort of DJ booth side of the room, and the bigger ones for the studio. What we'll say is, I need to treat this room really to hear what I'm doing in terms of production. It doesn't matter if you've got the best monitors in the world. I imagine if you've got a room that you can't hear what you're doing in because of reflections and stuff, they're only worth so much. So those big ones there with the flat surfaces all around them, I need to sort that out. And so I have them down quite low a lot of the time, so I can kind of hear what I'm doing a bit more without things vibrating and bouncing around.
Okay, and another question, is there a balance 2 on the cards?
No, not for a while. I would like to do one perhaps again when I'm ready. That compilation nearly finished me off, I'll tell you. Yeah, but maybe at some point. I've been using this time to make music of my own. In fact, most of the tracks that we use today are my own productions. In fact, I think all of them are. Oh, except for the one that I used in the Pioneer advert.
Yeah, so when can we expect to hear those tracks?
I haven't even thought about names for them yet. So when I've thought of the name, maybe. Or giving them to any labels, I don't know how they should be released. I think what I need to do is, well, what my management keeps saying I should do is, you need a body of work. It's no good just having 1 or 2 tracks. Otherwise, you'll release them and then they'll just go unnoticed. That's the official line, and they're probably right. They probably know what they're doing. So I think the idea is to just keep producing and stack up a pile of them, and then figure it out then.
Excellent. Should we jump into the polls now? Very, very important questions here.
Best novelty,
Pardon, sorry, James?
novelty slippers from Lidl.
What's the best Star Trek? What do you think the answer is?
Oh, Next
The
Generation.
original series, The Next Generation, Voyager, or Deep Space Nine? There was a clear winner here.
Oh, Next Gen.
No, the
What?
original series
Hey, oh,
with 46%.
William Flatner will be happy with that. Look, he's looking so pleased with himself.
What's the best Star Wars movie?
Empire.
And this got 45%.
The Phantom Menace.
Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
That's an obvious one.
What's your favorite mix compilation from James? So we've got Balance, your 2012 Essential Mix, Renaissance Live, Peaking Breaks, or Resonant Advisor Podcast 319. It's pretty close here. Which one do you think it was?
The Renaissance one.
That was very close. That got 25%, but at the top was your Balance.
Yeah, I guess that's my favorite one. But you always want the more recent project that you've done to be the one that everyone loves, but it's not always the case, is it?
Beat sync or no beat sync?
No beat sync.
Yeah, 68%.
There's a time and a place for it, I think. It depends. It depends what you're doing, doesn't it? I think I'm not against it, like ideologically, like some people are.
Yeah. In what profession should James retrain in? Cyber, cheese taster, influencer, lifeguard, or David Schwimmer?
Cheese taster. It's got to be.
Was joint. 40 votes each, so 31% joint. Oh no! Sorry, cheese taster has just gone up to 41. So yeah, they originally I thought that you'd be like Fatima and go into cyber, but no, cheese taster is the one. And then what's the best cheese, do you reckon?
That's a tough one. Oh, like Camembert, that's nice. Come on, Bear.
But remember, this isn't you. You know, this is a poll for just blanket. What is the best cheese?
I reckon. Cheddar.
Cheddar it is, with 22%.
Oh, so obvious. I didn't want to say that, but.
And and the last question: what is the best haircut? Feel free to suggest your own in the chat. So we've got Wookie, Rolf from the Muppets, Cousin It, or The Big Lebowski.
Oh, Wookie.
We've got The Big Lebowski.
Some of these cheese things in the chat are quite good. Someone's written, give a mature answer. I like that one.
Now, let's just go back into the questions again. I think.
Are people still here? They are.
Pardon?
Some people are still here.
Yeah.
They've stayed for the cheese.
Brilliant. So, unless we've got any more questions that are burning, do you want to pick out any?
I've tried not to look at the chat because I've found it really distracting whilst I was sort of getting comfortable.
I think just while you're looking, let's just reiterate a couple of things. This will be available on demand. You will receive an email because you signed up for this via Livestorm. So you'll receive an email afterwards that will have a link so that you can watch it at your leisure and go through all the videos and see exactly, you know, what you've seen today, because I know that there was a lot to take in. We've got one here. This has got 6 votes. How do you use Ableton when you mix samples, effects, or as clock, and so on? And that's from Cyril Meyer.
I just beat mash it in. I have pitch control assigned on the mixer, so I usually use one of the mic input knobs as a pitch control, and you can just assign one end to be, let's say you're playing a track at 127.4, so you can assign that whole knob to be 127.0 and then 128 at the other end. So you've got super accurate pitch control, and you can literally just mix it in really easily, I find. And I've found that so much easier than MIDI and everything like that. But the Ableton stuff I've done so much with sort of recently, I was kind of phasing that out a little bit, getting back to traditional D, for want of a better word.
Okay. I think I'm going to close out just with a question from myself. I think that, you know, this is a rather expansive one, but have you ever felt pressure from the expectations of how people perceive you to be versus how you want to be perceived as an artist? You know, that you've gone, there's the supporting Sasha breakthrough phase, then there's the kind of like, you know, playing with Nick Fanciulli 1+1 and kind of, you know, that phase. Then there's, you know, the solo, and then there's obviously tons of solo gigs and projects around that. And, you know, have you found that you've been able to be quite consistent throughout this whole process of being an artist, or have there been times when you've kind of been on stage and you're like, I don't want to do a feedback loop, I don't want to do like loads of scratching, you know, or this isn't that kind of thing, but people have built up this expectation that that's what they want to see from you?
Yeah. Talking about the beat matching thing, I feel like if I suddenly started using the sync, people would like be ribbing me for it. But as it happens, I like beat matching. It's fun to do, and you know, it's keeps you busy. And so, but had I considered like just using the sync stuff, I feel that people would be disappointed, because I guess some people may come to see me, you know, give them a sort of more live performance in that aspect anyway. Yeah, there is the pressure to sort of perform sometimes. Like I often get someone in the crowd doing the scratch mime at me.
Air scratching at you.
I like doing it. Air scratching at me. Yeah, I like doing it. It's better than the guy in the crowd, the play harder guy. He's much worse. Yeah, but I like doing it, so it's okay. But I feel like if I didn't do it, that person might go home pissed off.
I mean, and just to finish off, you know, have you ever been kind of felt an intense pressure to kind of, you know, constantly innovate? Because I know that, you know, there's been like big sort of jumps forward where certain pieces of equipment have been incorporated into your sets, you know, like the laptop, like the RMX. You know, is there sometimes a feeling where you feel as though there's almost an expectation to kind of continually like one up yourself the whole time? And has that ever kind of, have you ever struggled with that artistically?
Yeah, I think there was a period where everyone suddenly jumped on Tractor. It became like really trendy to use Tractor, and I used it and I enjoyed it, and it's very reliable. software, and it's great, but it didn't. I think I was probably using it not necessarily for the right reasons. I'm obviously a bit younger then, and I was, I wanted to be cool and use the coolest thing, and so I think it may have been at the detriment of some of my sets around that time. I was going with the crowd a bit, and so I think that was probably a mistake, but you have to learn from these things.
Definitely. Well, I think let's round it up there. Obviously everyone can just find you on socials if they haven't already. You've got a mix dropping tomorrow, which is a tribute to Phil K, isn't it, on Resident Advisor?
It's already out. It came out. I put it out as a part of Phil's tribute on Kiss FM in Australia. They used to have a radio show there called the Friday Tapes, and so I made a mix for that. But it's already on Mixcloud, and I think Resident Advisor are going to put it as their mix of the day tomorrow. So that's great.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for preparing those amazing routines, and thank you for your time and talent tonight, and explaining and revealing just what goes into your craft. And I also want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and for watching, and your amazing questions and your contribution to our cheese questions, etc.
Most important thing. But yeah, hope everyone's safe, and I really appreciate everyone tuning in for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye.
I'm just going to step out of the frame.